Hey, what's going on, family? Just real quick, I wanted to bring y'all a video called Six Ways to Spot a Liberal Coon. Okay? The reason why I want to address this topic is because a lot of us with these, Sambos who tap dance and shuck and jive for Donald Trump, um, are these conservative coons who are on Fox News, these Sheriff Clarks, these kind of people, right? We think, or a lot of us like to believe, that the only coons are the so-called Democrat, I mean not Democrat, so-called Republican conservative coons. And don't get me wrong, they are coons. But what we don't realize, a lot of us, is that we get duped into thinking that a lot of these so-called liberals and Democrats and people on the left, black people, are not coons simply because they align themselves with Democrats, that they're not coons. And that couldn't be further from the truth. All right. Like I said, it's clear we know Stacey Dash is a coon. We know Larry Elder is a coon. We know Sheriff Clark is a coon. I mean, even people who aren't really that conscious, but they're not just a full blast coon, kind of realize that those people are sellouts or coons. They may not even use the term coon, but they know that those people are sellouts and Sambos and stepping fetches. They'll call them Uncle Toms, even though that's a misnomer. It should be Sambo was the person who was the coon in Uncle Tom's Cabin. But people, they'll use terms like that, Uncle Tom, whatever, sometimes coon too. But people don't understand that as much as that applies to Republicans, it also applies to Democrat black people. Because first of all, on the big picture scale, those of us who've reached a certain level of consciousness understand that Republican versus Democrat has nothing to do with us. That's white people's argument. Republican versus Democrat is an argument that goes on between people who have power. It's an argument that goes on between equals. It's not an argument that goes on between black people and white people. We are separate from white people. I don't care what you say. We are not treated the same. The stats show this. We don't live the same. We don't have the same wealth. We're a separate society. If we were the same society, there'd be no racial disparities in America. We are a separate society from white people. Now, I don't mean that in the sense that we have independence. We're a colonized society. We're a colony. We're a colonized people. We're a completely controlled people. But we are not living in equitably, or even if you want to say, maybe saying that we have a separate society because we don't have a society to control. So I'm kind of wanting to backtrack on saying that. But the point was, we we don't we we don't live the same as white people. We're not living equitably in this society, if you consider us a part of this society, because to a degree we are, because we're dominated by it. But we're not included. We're dominated, but we're not included. It's just like slavery. We were dominated by America, but we're not included. But anyway, I digress. Because like I said, a lot of black people uh think that as long as you're a Democrat, as long as you don't hate on Obama, you're not a coon. And that's far from the truth. Okay? That's far from the truth. As a matter of fact, you should hate on Obama, not for coon reasons like Sheriff Clark, who will lie and tell the white supremacists a lie that Obama wants police, that Obama's making black people kill police. That can't be. Uh, I don't even want to start talking about the bullshit that them type of coons say, because obviously, as I was just saying, we all know that those people are coons. So anyway, enough with my little introduction. I'm gonna go ahead and get into the 6 signs or ways, or whatever you want to call it, of a liberal coon. How to know if you're dealing with a liberal coon. Okay. Number one. Again, 6 ways to spot a liberal coon. Number one, They are usually being a flunky for a white politician despite their anti-black policies or stances and racist hypocrisy. Now, of course, obviously, we know that people who coon for Donald Trump, despite his racism, despite his cold words, talking about law and order and stop and frisk and all of this shit, which is targeted at black people, despite Trump's overt racism, we obviously know that black Republicans will still coon for Trump, right? But I'm talking about liberals, right? Here's a sign of number one where liberals do the same exact thing. Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton puts out policies that totally destroy black people. Or not her directly, obviously, but she went out and campaigned for it, and her husband signed it and pushed it through. And Bernie Sanders signed it, which I'm going to get on him too. And the 94 Omnibus Crime Bill was a huge detriment and damage to black society. The crack to cocaine disparity laws had nothing but a racial motive, which again was a continuation of Nixon's racist policies. All right. Hillary Clinton topples and attacks, when she was Secretary of State, African countries who want to try to create some kind of independence for Africa. She's pillaged Haiti, not only for the earthquake stuff, but back when her husband Bill Clinton was in office, they were meddling down there. There's books written about it, the kind of stuff that they did in Haiti, not only when they were in the office, but once they got out of office, and especially during that earthquake. They totally robbed the Haitian people, to the point where the Haitian people were outside of her offices protesting, and have been doing so for a while. All right. So not only has she terrorized us here in America with her crime bills, but she's terrorized black people overseas in Africa, terrorizing Libya. It's totally destroyed. The government's totally unstable. All the black people there who were living nice are now being abused by the Arabs. All right. Total chaos in Libya, total destruction. Even the Al-Qaeda funded rebels by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are now saying that they made a mistake by cooning out against Muammar Gaddafi for the fucking Americans. And yes, they are Al-Qaeda. The U.S. still worked with Al-Qaeda even after they knew what they did during 9/11. The U.S. created Osama in order to have him fight the Russians, a proxy war for them for the Russians. He turned on them. But even after Osama, the U.S. is still using Islamic terrorists to carry out their agendas, knowingly. But I digress. That's not the topic of this video. As I said, that's sign number one. They support white politicians despite their anti-black policies or stances and racist hypocrisy. For example, even Bernie Sanders. Niggas want to get out on a campaign trail and campaign for his hypocritical ass. But he said he doesn't agree with reparations for black people because they would be quote unquote too divisive. But you had no problem signing bills or ordering companies to pay reparations to Jews, which he did. He had no problem with that. But all of a sudden, when it comes to black people, and I'm not sure, I'm sure on the Jew thing, I'm not sure. I think he supported either Japanese reparations or he supports Native American rights, like land rights and stuff, which is a form of reparations to the Indians. Obviously, it's still only a portion of what's theirs, which is the entire country. So I'm not trying to say that it's good enough, but at least they're getting something, unlike us. All right, but I'm not sure if Bernie has supported reparations or reparations type things for the other groups, but I know he's definitely supported it for Jews, and that didn't even happen in his country. That's hypocrisy number one. Hypocrisy number two with Bernie Sanders is that he signed the crime bill, and people try to say, oh, well, he only signed it because he it had the Violence Against the VAWA Act, the Violence Against Women's Act. All right, and that's the only reason why he supported it, because it had that in there, and he didn't want to go against it and let women get abused, right? White women, okay? Let's be very clear. All policies for quote unquote women are for white women. And I'll probably make another video about that. I'm not going to try to prove that right now, but I'm making that stance and I'm firm on it, okay? And I can prove it, but I'm not going to do it in this video. But here's the problem with Bernie. Bernie knew, and this is what people say as in order to defend him. Oh, he even called, before he, voted yes on the crime bill, he called out how it would disproportionately target black people, that which makes it worse. So Bernie is admitting that he knew that this was a racist policy and he signed it anyway. And back to that VAWA excuse, let's go to now. Bernie did not sign the bailout bill because it had Wall Street bailouts in it that he didn't agree with, even though it had auto bailouts in it that he did agree with. And Hillary Clinton tried to attack him by saying that Bernie voted against the auto bailout when they were going against each other in the Democratic primary. And Bernie's defense was, yes, I voted against that bill that had the auto bailout in it, but only because of the Wall Street provisions. And I later voted for a bill that only, he said either I voted for or I proposed a bill that had only the auto bailout in it, right? A separate auto bailout bill that didn't give so much to Wall Street or didn't give anything to Wall Street. One of those two. Like I said, I'm a little bit fuzzy on the facts, but I know that I'm solid on the general facts of it. I'm just fuzzy on the details. I'm solid on the facts. Just fuzzy on the details a little bit. But that shows how Bernie is willing to go against a bill that has things in it that he doesn't like, even if it has other things in it that he does. You've shown that you're willing to vote against a bailout because it's giving money to evil corporations. But when someone prevents a racist, damn near Hitler-style bill to you that's going to hurt black people, and you call it out, hey, this is racist as fuck. But oh well, I'm going to sign it anyway. Got to protect those white women from getting slapped up. Fuck it, I'm going to sign it anyway. Fuck black people. Fuck black women. Even though I'm claiming to sign some Violence Against Women Act, because I'm just going to put all their husbands and fathers in jail, which is going to make their society and community more and more degenerate and degraded and weak and collapsed, and make them vulnerable to racism and dependency, and destroy their community and having a healthy, growing towards being a community that's mentally healthy because they grew up with both parents. Fuck all the black females who are losing their men, even though I'm verbally saying that that's what it's going to do. Fuck those women. I'm going to sign the bill anyway. And that's what he said, because he proved to you that he's willing to stand up for shit that he really does believe is wrong. And it's too wrong to agree, even if it has a little quote unquote good that's going to come along with it. But as I said, and this video is about spotting liberal coons, that's one way to spot a liberal coon. They coon for massa, just like a black Republican will coon for Trump. They coon for these white racist Democrats, these hypocritical ass Democrats, and campaign for them. But a lot of y'all think that just because they ain't out here talking like Trump, it's okay to support these people, and the black people who cape for these coons, who cape for these white supremacists, even when you point out to them that these people like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders are white supremacists also, they get mad at you and attack you. Because they don't like the idea, if I don't run to Hillary or Bernie, that means, are you telling me to run to Trump? No, nigga, I'm telling you to run to yourself. Run to us. Run to black people. But you and your coon mind have to have a white master, a white savior. So if you can't go with Trump, you don't want to go with Trump. So you got to go with Bernie or Hillary. It's like when you're a slave, there's this really cruel slave master, and then there's this really, late as far as a slave master can be, because all slave masters are cruel. But in comparison to other slave masters, he's real nice. And when a black person comes to you and say, hey, how about no slave master and freedom? What you talk about? What you talk about? Master Hillary's a good master. You don't even know how bad it could be. That's what that. Ooh, if we don't vote for Hillary, if we don't vote for Bernie, if we don't engage in the process, Trump gonna win. And you really think these white supremacists, Bernie and Hillary, would have been any better? In some ways, they would have been worse, because they would have forced you niggas back to sleep. I'm kind of glad he won, because it's forcing a lot of black people to wake up and get their wake-up calls. A lot of black women, black feminists who are part of that black liberal coon brigade, and I'm going to get into that a little bit too later on in this video. A lot of them got their wake-up call when 53% of white women voted for Trump. Because they're all white supremacists at the end of the day. That's what y'all don't get. And even the ones who would have voted for Hillary, I just pointed out, were still voting for a white supremacist. But anyway, I digress. Again, that's point number one. They are usually being a flunky for a white politician, despite their policies or stances and racist hypocrisy. Now, on to point number two. They make black on black crime arguments. Now, as we know, the black Republican will come out and, what about black on black crime, right? What about the Chicago? Da, 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 da. And that's so easily debunked, because we know, first of all, you create crime, you create the conditions for crime by removing the resources. That's why we had white boys in all kind of gangs. That's why that movie Gangs in New York is based on how, when you economically deprive certain white people, when you weren't considering Italians and Irish and these other groups of people white yet, and you segregated them and then removed the resources, all kind of gang criminality and gang culture was popping off. All right. So we already know that's what happens when you segregate people and then remove the resources. That's number one. Number two, despite your creating that environment, our crime rates are not that much higher than any other racial group. Yes, it is the highest. I'll give you that, but I'll just explain why that's happening. But it's still only 6% higher than white people. White on white crime. And once we get money, lower class and upper middle class and upper class black people commit less crime than middle class and upper class white people. Look it up. So anyway, as I said, we know how to dismantle that black on black crime bullshit, right? For that kind of black on black crime from Republicans. But what we don't realize is that these liberal coons make the same argument. They'll talk about how straight black people are oppressing gay black people, black men are oppressing black women. Quote unquote cis people are oppressing black people, are oppressing transgender black, all this bullshit. No black person, especially in America, but really on this planet, has any power to oppress any other black people. There's a difference between being violent and having the power to oppress. I can go out here and punch a white man in the face. All right. So, because women want to talk about abuse and things like that and call that, oh, that's patriarchy, that's male oppression. No, it's not. If I go out here and punch a white man in the face, first of all, I'm going to jail. But number two, yes, was I, quote unquote, maybe abusive? Yes. Was I violent? Yes. But was I oppressing that white man? No. It's the same thing with women. Yeah, your black husband or boyfriend might slap you. He might psychologically control you or manipulate you. Some black criminal might rape you. Unfortunately, some scumbag. But despite all of that, he's still not oppressing you. He can't systematically disenfranchise you. He can't choose whether or not you have a job. Because if you can't go to him, you can, let's say it is one of those few black men with a quote unquote business. If you can't go to him, you can just go to somebody else, a white person with a business or somebody else, another black person. Or not another black person, because it's rare to find black employees, but you can easily find employment elsewhere. You don't need a black man for sustenance in any way, shape, or form, and you know it. But the majority of us do need white people in some way, shape, or form. That's how they can oppress us. In all areas of activity and all levels of life, I don't care if you're the biggest, richest business owner, in some way you are dependent on white people if you're a black person. Even Oprah. That's why Oprah had to come crying and begging after she made the mistake of saying, I don't eat beef. Even her rich, and she's only the 471st richest person in the world, not even in the world, in America. I think it might be the world. Let me check that. It's one of those two. She's 471st on some list. It's either the world or it might even just be America. But there are still plenty of people out there who got more paper than Oprah. And Oprah's one of the richest, if not the richest black person on the planet. Even the richest black person on the planet is 300, got 300, 400 something white men out there, plus the ones who aren't on the list that got way more paper than them. And people who can control them. And people who can shut them down. And even Oprah, as rich as she is, guess what? If the white supremacists decided, they can put fake charges on her and throw her in jail tomorrow. And what's that? And I'm not saying that Oprah's any kind of criminal at all. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying that's the power of the white supremacists. They can literally totally in order to send a message to black society, totally fabricate some kind of allegation against Oprah and throw her in jail tomorrow. And with all that money, ain't nothing stopping her from going to prison. I can promise you that, if that's what the white supremacists decided. And anyway, my apologies, fam, because I'm going off on a tangent. But the point was that no black person has the power to defend, has the power to oppress each other. None of us do. So sitting up here making these black on black crime arguments about how homophobia, and I'm gonna get on that a little bit, this intersectionality hustle, and how black people are so wrong to each other. Then they try to make these false stats, because I also say, okay, even if they want to make the argument, not from other black people, first of all, even if they want to admit that it's not black people that's creating problems for gay black people, for the gay aspect of their rights, because we don't have no power to make no anti-gay laws. That's white people. So even if they want to admit that it's not us, they'll say, well, we're more oppressed. But then I ask them to show me stats. Show me stats where black women can't get something that black men can. And the only thing that you can really show is that black men do on average make slightly more than black women. But again, that stat is skewed because, as with all men versus women, men tend to choose careers that are higher paying than women. That's just a fact. It's not that men are getting paid more for doing the same exact job. Does that happen some places or very few places? Maybe. I don't even know if that. But when I was looking at the data is that men tend to be more times engineers, doctors, these kind of careers than women. Now, some people will say, oh, well, they locked women out. Not anymore. You can't say that anymore. You can't even say that. Because if there's any disparity, women have higher employment numbers than men. Well, those who are choosing, because I think women, there's a lot of women who aren't registered as unemployed, but those who are actually registered as unemployed, there are more men who are registered with the government, because stay-at-home moms and people like that, they don't count as unemployed. All right, even though they are technically unemployed, they don't count as unemployed. Um, so among people who are registered with the government as unemployed, there's more men unemployed than women. All right, so men, as I said, you can look these up too. You can, a white feminist debunk that equal pay shit, right? But as far as it being some sexist plot, it's not. But that's the only really thing that black men have over black women. We have higher incarceration, lower education, lower employment rate, lower average education, lower employment rates, higher suicide rates, higher homicide rates. Our domestic violence levels, being victims of domestic violence, are about equal. And yes, black women hurt black men, hit black men with shit, fuck them up real bad too. It goes both ways. Or gay men. And that's the other thing. Not all black women who are victims of domestic violence are victims by black men. Some of them are lesbians. And they're getting beat by their female partner. So if we look at all areas of life, statistically, black women are actually doing better. Y'all got more jobs than us. Y'all got higher education than us. Y'all are in jail less than us. You commit suicide less than us. You get you're victims of homicide less than us. You're victims of police brutality less than us. So if we want to make dumbass arguments that black people can oppress each other, then black women are oppressing black men, because you're doing better than us and everywhere except average income for those of us who are employed. But more of y'all are employed. For those of us who are employed, compared to those of you who are employed, our average income is more than yours, but there's way more of y'all getting jobs than us in the first damn place. It's just that when we finally do get a job, they let us make a couple of dollars more than you. It's actually on average $3,000 more a year, which really ain't shit. Especially when half the time we got to spend that extra. Most of us are spending that extra $3,000 on a woman anyway. So again, they make black on black crime arguments no different than a damn black Republican. Call this intersectionality bullshit, are these wanting to split yourself off because you're a black gay and you're extra oppressed, even though you can't even show any stats. And when I asked when I was debating some black gay people on Twitter and asked them to show me some stats on how black gays are more oppressed than straight black people, they sent me stats that showed that black gays were more oppressed than white gays, but not more oppressed than black people or straight black people. Because you can't show it. We're all the same. We're all black, whether you like it or not. And you're doing nothing but making a what about black on black crime argument. Because if black people can oppress each other based off some domestic violence or some rape or some whatever, some psychological abuse, whatever it is, then when a black man kills another black man, is he oppressing him? Does he have the power to oppress all black people now? Does that make him a racist? Come on, man. Anyway, point number 3. I know I'm taking a while, but thank y'all for hanging with me. Point number 3, family. 1 second, let me. All right. Now, number 3. Sign number 3. They may give occasional lip service to black economic empowerment, but it is far from their main focus. This is for these Ebony's, these Jets, these Mark Lamont Hill coons, these Michael Eric Dyson coons. They might every now and then say, hey, black people need to get their own black businesses. Black people need to buy black, things like that. But they will never sit up here and say black people need a complete economic system of their own. Like I said, they may occasionally allude to that, or they might even say straight up that every now and then, but it is not the constant focus of their message. Like, for example, somebody like Jason Black and Professor Black Truth. I respect those brothers a lot. They are constantly pushing, beating the drum of economic independence. The Nation of Islam, no matter how you feel about them, and trust me, I've got some positive things that I see in them, and I've got some things that I'm a little bit, looking at them sideways for. But regardless, a constant message that you have to respect is they have always constantly beat the drum of economic empowerment. It's a central point of their philosophy. Garveyites, Pan-Africanists, a central component of that ideology is economic independence. If you are not talking about having economic independence, because that ties into almost everything else that our freedom entails, that ties into the violence, that ties into politics that we deal with, that ties into so many areas. It ties into the sexual and gender areas. It ties into all of that. Once you start having economic power, you can start dictating to politicians. Once you have economic power, you can start dictating to our women. And I'm not saying dictating as far as controlling or abusing, but that's a bad phraseology, but we can get respect from our women. We can provide for our women so they're not incentivized to betray us and coon for whether it's a liberal outlet or a Democratic outlet, or it's a Republican or conservative outlet. We can get cooperations as men from our female. We get more cooperation. Our women are not vulnerable to be sexually exploited by the dominant society in order to make a living. And that happens in more than one way. That's not just if you're a prostitute or something stupid like that. A lot of women who are working actual regular jobs had to do something with some white supremacist male superior in order to gain certain positions. It's sad, but it's true. And it happens with black men too. The few black men who do own businesses, sometimes they make black women compromise themselves. But I'm just saying it happens more than you think with white men also. But I digress. The point was, these liberal coons, like I said, every now and then, oh yeah, we need some black businesses, but it is not something that they are constantly hammering black people. We need independence, and the first form of independence that we need to work towards is economic independence. They always want to talk to you about, they spend the majority of their time arguing with white people about being good white people, right? They spend the majority of their time arguing about pushing the myth of white ignorance. And I'm going to put a link in the description box called Tommy Curry and the Myth of White Ignorance. After you listen to this video, go listen to that video. It's only, my video is already, pushing 40 minutes, but that video is only 10 minutes long, but it breaks down the liberal coon academics and how their whole the whole black liberal academia, the majority of it. Now, he doesn't use that terminology, coon and stuff like that. I don't use that, but Dr. Tommy Curry was very intelligent. He breaks down that whole coonish white ignorance sermon to white America, which is Michael Eric Dyson's latest book. That type of, oh, black people just need to show white people how bad being racist is, and they'll just stop. It's a lie, and it's a coon tactic, okay? And as I said, listen to that video with Tommy Curry, and he breaks that down better than I ever could. So, plus, for the sake of time. But, I'll end on that point. As I just said, intersectional or minority coalition hustle. And excuse me, family, I gotta drive real quick, so excuse me if you hear some background noise. So yeah, my bad, family. But anyway, they make excuse me, and I'm saying way too much, family, way too much. I've taken professional speaking classes, and I know not to say that. But intersectional, back to point 3. They, as I said, they never ever focus on black empowerment. It's always about some, oh, just come together and stop being a bad white person, and we'll all get along, right? It's not, hey, we need economic empowerment. We need economic empowerment. Even Michael Eric Dyson, for example, I was just talking about him. He wrote a book called Sermon to White America. So instead of doing a sermon to Black America about how we need to get our own shit together, you want to, once again, waste time pleading with white people. Despite it's 2017 and you shouldn't have to plead with them about shit because we so post-racial and white people supposedly understand how bad it is to not be racist, but you still got to make a fucking book in 2017 called Sermon to White America begging their asses to stop being racist, despite they're telling you to your face, I know racist is being bad, and denying being racist. Why? Because they know it's a bad, but they're still fucking doing it. But anyway, family, let me move on to point 4. I just wanted to make sure I really nailed point 3 home. All right. Point 4, intersectional and minority coalition hustle. I just touched on how we can't oppress each other, but now I'm going to touch on how these other groups who are supposedly also oppressed, which some of them are, but it's, again, for the majority of them, it's nowhere near to the degree black people are. White women. White women use black women, obviously, but they're eerily silent whenever it comes. They use black women to push their feminist agendas that's supposedly for all women, but it's not. It's really just for white women. They don't see other women as quite really as women. When they say women, they're applying to they're talking about themselves. I'm sorry, but they are. They are not talking about our sisters. They're simply not. And some of y'all are just gonna have to learn to accept that. That's why they sit up here and smile in your face and tell you that they have a sisterhood, but then they went out and voted for Trump. And as I said, even if they did vote for Hillary, which the minority of them did, she's anti-black too. But other ways, again, with the white feminists, and I don't want to go too much on this, but with the white feminists, they never stand up for you when you get harmed by race soldiers or vigilantes. No speaking up for that McKinney pool incident. No statements from white women there. No statements for Rakia Boyd. It took pressure for them. I think it took pressure for them to say something about Sandra Bland. They didn't come out originally. It took them like 2 weeks after black feminists started calling their asses out. But you want to sit up here and talk about intersectionality. That's why we got to sit up here and worry about women's issues and march with white women, because it ain't about race, it's about gender too, right? But when it's time for it, or it's not only about race, it's about gender also. So y'all deal with gender, but whenever it's time for them to side with you on race, they're nowhere to be seen. Same thing with gays. They have y'all black gay asses all up in their marches. But when a black person gets harmed, the only gay people there are the black ones. But then gay dumbass people want to sit up here and tell us how we got so much homophobia in the black community, which there is some. But how we have no but you don't want to talk to these white gay people about how much they're racist. You're not going up in gay meetings, disrupting them talking about getting their agendas pushed when they want to talk about marriage equality and all this bullshit. You're not disrupting their meetings, bringing up black issues. But you'll come into a black meeting and start talking about gay issues. We're at a fucking protest for a dead straight man, and you want to talk about gay issues. A dead black, because that's the point. Not straight or gay, but black. A dead black man, but he's straight, but you still want to sit up here and talk about gay issues and gay oppression. Like a dumbass. But you won't go to them white gay meetings and start telling them how racist they are. Even though gay people, and I've seen them admit it online, gay black men, gay black women, admit that in their dating situations on Facebook, different articles, whatever, that many of these white gays are racist as hell, won't date them, say racist shit to them just like straight white partners will if they are in relationships with them. Excuse me. But you don't call them out. Minority Coalition. Y'all sitting up here talking, caping for Asians, letting Asians tell you, ooh, black people get too much attention. Black people, you don't include us. What about us? We're oppressed too. Except when you get to kill one of us like Peter Liang did. Then you want to protest for his right to murder us just like white men. That's what the Asian said. Not even that it wasn't wrong, but that you didn't punish the white men. So if you punish us, that's racist. So they sat up there and admitted that it wasn't about whether or not Peter Liang was justified in killing Akai Gurley. It was literally, again, look this up, literally, that if you let white men get away with it, you gotta let us get away with it too. That's your minority coalition. Then they come up here and they disrespect you when you go in their businesses, treat you like shit, serve you shit. Food products are cheap if it's some kind of toy or something that they made in their home country, or if the food is fucking rat meat, probably, you know. Let's just be real. And don't get me wrong, I eat it sometimes too, but who knows what's in that bullshit? It's poison, and we know that. I showed you guys my black collectivism video, how they got grocery stores and entire plazas of businesses, and there ain't not one African business up in there. But we got a minority coalition. I can show y'all, and I'm going to make another black collectivism video. Some Latinos in this same city have a mall, a little shopping mall. That's all Latino. Signs in Spanish is called Santa Fe Mall. All right. Ain't no black businesses up in there. As I showed y'all, you can go look at my black collectivism video. You ain't gonna see no fucking African shop, no Jamaican business in that plaza. So when it's time for some benefits, when it's time for some affirmative action or anything like that, oh, what about us too? Don't forget about us. But when it comes time for them to have a business, they ain't sharing shit with you. When it comes time for them to get some reparations like the Japanese or the Native Americans, they ain't sharing shit with you. When it comes time to not be anti-black and have and say racist ass shit behind closed doors about black people, not want your daughters or sons half the time to date black people. A lot of times you want to engage in black culture and act cool and say my nigga, but I can't call you my wetback, my spink, my chink, my gook. A lot of the times in their home countries, the black people there are treated like shit and are more racially segregated against than us here in America. They're racist as hell in places like even China, for example. North Korea lampooning black people wearing the fucking wigs. It's like the 50s sometimes in Asian countries, the way they mock black people. In Latino countries, all the dark skinned people are living on the bottom, and all the lighter skinned people are living on the top. In all these countries that a lot of these Latinos come from. But you niggas will sit up that Arab fuck boy who did that little Delta video had a history of making what? Anti-black racist ass jokes. And again, that speaking of Arab, a lot of these Arab countries and so-called Muslim countries, black people are treated like shit, called kafirs, are literally slaves. In a lot of these countries still, Arab countries, as I said, these Arabs, that Adam Saleh fuckboy was making anti-black ass videos, but dumbass black people, when black men, a lot of the times it was mostly black men, called him out for being a fucking racist and said, I'm not caping for your bitch ass, especially when you do pranks on planes all the time. So this is probably a boy who cried wolf type of situation. Even when black men were calling that out, I seen dumbass black women saying, oh, black men, they only stand up for oppression when it affects them. They don't stand up for us black women, and they don't stand up for Arabs, even racist Arabs. So you sit up here trying to turn on black men for some racist Arab who don't like your ass. And like I said, when you're in need, when black people are in need, there's nobody there for us. All these other groups, nowhere to be found. When it's time to share some of that paper, when it's time for some of the benefits to come, we can't find none of them. But when it's time for our benefits to come, or let me say that better. When it's time for them to get something, we don't see them. But when it's time for us to get something, oh, they all want to come running. Don't forget about us. We brothers. We the same. No, we not, bitch. Especially when half of y'all fill out white when you fucking sign the census form or fill out job applications. Because Hispanic is not a race. Arab is not a race. Middle Eastern is not a race. Muslim is not a race. A lot of these people are white. Genetically. And or mentally. Same with these Hispanics. But they run that con game. I'm a minority. Well, yeah, technically by the government you are. But again, that's why we don't need to be in these minority coalitions. Yeah, you're a minority. I'm a black person. I'm not with that bullshit. It's a fucking con game and trick bag by the white supremacists. But anyway, I digress. I was just pointing out in that point how this intersectionality bullshit, whether it's gay rights, and then the other thing too is all of this is meant to take you off of white supremacy. That's how they maintain white supremacy. If you're spending time fighting for Latino rights, if you're spending time fighting for white gay rights, if you're spending time fighting for white women's rights, that's less time you're spending fighting white supremacy. That's why, and I'm seeing, and I think I might put this as the screen cap. A tweet from a black woman going at black women for neglecting transgenders. See, that's the point of this intersectionality hustle. Constantly keep you off dealing with white supremacy and pointing the finger at other black people, how we need to check our privilege too. Fighting with each other or wasting time fighting for groups who don't fight for us. Except maybe they might say Black Lives Matter every now and then, so they don't feel bad about themselves. But when it comes time to really do anything with black people, as if we were really all in the same boat, they don't want shit to do with you. As Tariq Nasheed says all the time, let them hold their own nuts. And that's what I'm put as a screen cap to illustrate this point. How black feminist dumbass, just like you got guided and told, I don't care what you say, by the white supremacists to attack black men, now they telling you to attack black women. And you dumbass gonna do it like a sheep. And I'm gonna put the screen cap to show how this so-called liberal black woman is attacking other black women because, hey, everybody's oppressing everybody. As I said, back to that black on black crime argument. That's the other thing too, how it works in the service of white supremacy. Because if everybody's oppressing everybody, who can really complain about being oppressed? Because one, it makes oppressing people seem normal, like a normal behavior. And number two, it dilutes what oppression means because everybody's going through it. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people are, but when you make it the same oppression for all these other groups, even though they're vastly different issues, you minimize and weaken our arguments. And you make us look ridiculous and not credible. I heard some female talk about male supremacy. Again, when you are making everything about supremacy, then the people who are talking about real supremacy look as foolish as you. Because everything's supremacy. White supremacy, male supremacy, female supremacy, gay supremacy, straight supremacy. Everything's supremacy. You know? So, again, that's another way to dilute our fight and distract us and divert us. And anyway, fam, I know I'm taking a long time. 1 second. So let me move on to my next point. That's that point number 4 was the intersectional and minority coalition hustle. So number 5 is going to be, they never discuss separation or pathology or white pathology, and they rarely use the word white supremacy. So again, these black liberal coons, what do they suggest as far as solutions? Marching, praying, begging. They never talk about separation, and they never talk about independence, right? They only talk about let's beg, let's march, let's pray, let's plead, right? Even though we've been through the same thing over and over and over, the same issues over and over and over again. Despite that, they never suggest that we separate. Despite the fact that we've basically had an abusive relationship with white people. If you were in any marriage and you've been abused very severely, any mental health professional and most people with common sense will tell you you need to leave that relationship. But with black people, no, we need to talk to them and we need to work it out with them and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Separation is just a totally untenable solution because it's not about love. But the problem is there's a look, family, I'm going on for a while, but there's a permanence of racism, all right? And there's a myth of white ignorance. And again, I highly suggest that. I know my video is super long, but please go watch, even if you don't watch my whole video, but if you've made it this far, you might as well have watched the whole thing. But go watch that myth of white ignorance video because it breaks down how, first of all, white people know They know what they're doing. That's number one. And number two, well, number one, they know what they're doing. So number two is that if they know what they're doing, they're intentionally doing it. The only way to stop it is to get rid of them. And that getting rid of them does not mean genocide. Get rid of them by leaving them, getting away from them. Just like when I say you need to get rid of your spouse, that don't mean murder your spouse. That just means get away from their ass. Because they are intentionally abusing you. And if they won't let you leave and keep attacking you, then of course, obviously, we might have to look at some self-defense. But that doesn't mean go out and attack them or do anything to them. Just give us the power and the resources to truly control ourselves. Not no token bullshit, not no puppet bullshit. That's some sending us some Barack Obama that you can know. Our own shit. Plain and simple. So again, these liberal coons, you never hear them talk about separation. They never include that as a viable way of thought. It's only integration. There's nothing with the consistent pathology that white people show against black people. The consistent psychopathic nature of white people towards black people. Does this mean every one of them? No. But unfortunately, way too many of them, consciously or subconsciously, have a pathological way of thinking when it comes to black people. That's how Freddie Gray can break his own back. That's how Mike Brown is the son of Luke Cage. That's a pathological, borderline psychotic type of thinking. Y'all saw in my video, one of the videos I did about the BLM kidnapping. What did I use as a screenshot or a screen cap? A white supremacist justifying that rape of that black boy with a coat hanger. But we don't discuss this kind of psychopathology. No liberal coon will ever discuss that, because what is it going to do? It's going to set the white liberals. And I'm going to make a video about them, exposing them, even though I've already kind of exposed them in this video. Anyway, point number 6. Always make excuses for powerless token politicians rather than holding them accountable for their loyalty to white supremacy. For example, of course, Barack Obama. Oh, he can't do nothing. Which, to a degree, he can't. That's part of the reason why I say we have a system of white supremacy. Even the most powerful black person in the world is powerless, because he can do something for white women. Lilly Ledbetter Act. Again, affirmative action has benefited who more than anyone? Guess who? White women. Did you know women didn't become a minority until, or when, women were classified as a minority by the very same man who rejected a civil rights bill until it had women in there, white women, or not quote unquote women, but women in there as a minority. And then guess who got all the benefits from it? White women. And actually, that's going to be the second link I'm going to put in the description box. A quick little 8-minute video that breaks down how white women were introduced as a quote unquote minority, specifically for the purpose of taking resources away from black people, and how it's played out that way. Because if you look at the stats now, women are the majority receiver. White women are the majority receivers of affirmative action, majority recipients. Again, that goes back to how that whole minority thing is a hustle. We're going to join up with you so A, we can take all the benefits that were supposed to go to you, and B, so we can use you to just advance us. But we're never going to try to advance you. That's why you're still on the bottom and we're still on the top. And all the biggest disparities, wealth-wise incarceration wise, etc., are between black and white, not man and woman, not Latino and black. It's fucking black and white. That's where some of the biggest disparities are as far as inequality. So again, Obama, what does he do? He signs the Lilly Ledbetter Act. He signs the Blue Alert Law for the cops, the Blue Lives Matter bill. He signed an number of unprecedented number of executive orders, quote unquote, because he was so obstructed. So you're signing executive orders for immigrants. You're signing executive orders for cops. You're signing executive orders for gays. You're signing executive orders for women. You're doing all this shit. But when it comes to black people, oh, I'm the president of all America. You didn't tell the fucking women, I can't do nothing for women because I'm the president of men too. No, you went on ahead and signed that damn bill. I can't do nothing for cops because I'm the president of civilians too. Nope, you went on ahead and signed that bill. I can't do nothing for immigrants because I'm the president of people who are actually citizens of this country. Nope, you went on ahead and signed that bill too. But what do black people want to do? Bye, Obama. I miss you, Obama. I'm so sad, Obama. Whilst he sat down with a damn benign neglect while black people get slaughtered in the streets. While he helps U.S. try to recolonize Africa. While he's the front man for that. While he's dropping bombs, killing black people overseas. Standing by while our criminal justice system operates in a racist manner and he does nothing. While black people are economically disenfranchised and he does nothing. Because he can't do it for us because he's the president of all people. Can't give us reparations because it's going to make Latinos and Asians mad, even though they didn't go through slavery. They didn't build this country. And don't tell me, oh, well, it's going to come out of Texas and they had nothing to do with it. We had nothing to do with Japanese reparations, but we had to pay for that. We ain't got nothing to do with Jewish reparations, black people, but we got to pay for that. So I don't give a fuck. This is our country. Black people I'm talking about. We built this shit. But we don't deserve reparations because some Johnny-come-latelys who we fought for to even be able to come here and be treated right want to come here and disrespect us and get more benefits than us. But, oh, it's going to make them mad if we get reparations. But what do black people want to do? Make excuses for them. Other black politicians. You know, we had black coon politicians like Shirley Chisholm signing Richard Nixon's War on Drugs bill. Which Richard Nixon admitted behind closed doors. The problem is black people and we have to find a way to oppress them without appearing to do so. And then he came with that War on Drugs bill, which led to the mass incarceration of black people. But what do black people do? They was just doing what they thought was the best. We had an epidemic. That's what the coons were saying for Hillary Clinton. Oh, it was an epidemic. So the black politicians who signed the crime bill, it was an epidemic. They were begging and they needed... No, motherfucker. They were coons working for white supremacy, signing bills that are going to genocide black people. Any black politician who signs any kind of stop and frisk bill that Trump brings or any kind of bill like that, they're coons. And they do nothing for us. Stop caping for these black politicians who do nothing except maybe encourage a march or live off the civil rights movement, which was the wrong movement and was a white supremacy back movement. I'm going to break that down. You John Lewis supporters, don't get me wrong, I don't support Trump for disrespecting him. But these John Lewises, these kind of dudes, stop caping for these dudes because they don't do nothing for us. I'm sorry, they don't. They might pretend to, but they don't really do nothing for us. And even if we're not disrespectful about it, we got to at least call to task and say, hey, we can't look to these people for leadership, even if we're not going to disrespect them, because they are not leading us anywhere. They're not doing nothing for us. All John Lewis does is attend speeches and live off civil rights glory, which, as I said, the civil rights was a white supremacy control movement, and I'm going to prove that in another video. But the point was, especially all the points I made about Barack Obama, but it can be applied to black politicians at every level of government. They actively work against black people, or they're powerless and do nothing to improve our positions and stand by while the white supremacists degrade us, but we will still make excuses for them. So again, a super long video, but I'm gonna close it now, family. Just to review 6 signs to spot a liberal coon. 1, they are usually being a funky for white politician, despite their anti-black policies and racist hypocrisy. 2, they make black on black crime arguments. 3, they may give occasional lip service to black economic empowerment, but it is far from their main focus. 4, they push and believe in the intersectionality and minority coalition hustle. That's 4. Number 5, they never discuss separation or white pathology and rarely use the word white supremacy. And 6, they always make excuses for powerless token politicians rather than holding them accountable for their loyalty to white supremacy. All right, family, super long video. I'm gonna try to do better about them. Thanks for listening. Hour plus, but I'm out. Peace, love, and power. Out.